be in the offing, just days ahead of a crucial EU summit. But patience for Theresa May among the grassroots here in Enfield is growing thin. They want a deal on British terms, not one that ties us to the EU for years to come.
It seems now that we're sort of crumbling a little bit, and then we're going to have to back down and get possibly more of what they want than we would like.
I think she's doing as good as she can. As long
There
as
you
she
go.
doesn't sell us down the river.
She should have gone straight in. We've got a lot of power, we're a country of pride, and I think she's let us down terribly.
No surprise the former Brexit secretary feels the same. Writing in the Sunday Times today, David Davis urged the cabinet to exert their collective authority, saying a deal that keeps the UK in a customs union with Europe indefinitely was completely unacceptable. Rather like an awkward uncle at the dinner table, David Davis's intervention was designed to upset the party just days ahead of the crucial summit. It's not yet clear whether there will be a pre-summit dinner in Brussels on Wednesday night, or even if Theresa May will get an invite. Certainly as the Prime Minister sits down with the other 27 EU leaders, she'll know that getting the EU, the hardline Brexiteers and her Northern Ireland parliamentary partners to all stomach the same deal will be a tall order. The current Brexit...
They summed that up pretty well. Now, I played that video first because if I introduce a video with an explanation of what I want to talk about, I find myself forgetting half of what I wanted to talk about. If I watch something like this first, I have an idea what I want to get off my mind. Now, as you may have noticed, I haven't done any video. I've done one since my laptop died. The laptop apparently has been repaired, and so somehow apparently takes them a week to get it from somewhere up in Yorkshire to back here in Norwich. I mean, I know our transport's bad. I didn't quite realise it was that bad. Anyway, so apparently that laptop is due back in Norwich this week. So, we've had tons of stuff happen with Brexit, with Saudi Arabia, with John Bercow in the bloody House of Commons, God knows what else. And everywhere you look, it's basically a shit show. Everything's going to pot, nothing's turning out well. It's all a disaster. Global warming's even worse than we thought it was. You name it, it's shit. Well, yeah, of course it is. So, I'll start with this whole Brexit thing again, because that's where most of my interest in this lies. I don't want my interest to lie in Brexit. It's just that's what I believe in, and everything is dominated by that left, right, and centre. So it's difficult to really escape it. So I think it's not unreasonable to say now at this late stage of the game that Brexit looks or a no deal looks more and more likely. I should be sitting here announcing this with some champagne and fine food and all the other crap which I should have in front of me as I announce this in celebration. But really, as much as I think right now no deal is probably the best thing we're going to get out of the EU, who have shown to be utterly ignorant and incompetent. We think we're incompetent. They're pretty bloody useless themselves. They have absolutely no idea what they want out of this, apart from us to essentially stay in. And if they have one plan, it is to make life so difficult that not only does it deter other countries from thinking, well, we should leave, but it deters us from wanting to leave in the first place, and you have to give them credit for that. By Christ, they have done a great job of making Brexit look utterly ridiculous. This whole thing is utterly ridiculous. And there are quite a few people who need to be blamed for this. But the sad thing is I find myself torn right down the middle, because the party that has done the most in Parliament, you can argue, yeah, sure, you could argue UKIP's done absolutely loads, it won the European elections, won so many MPs, been hugely influential, and it has. But in terms of our Parliament, our Parliament, which we all voted, everyone who voted wanted our Parliament to have more control than any Parliament or institution in Europe. The most influential party in our Parliament for arriving at the idea that we are now leaving the European Union, it's a given, there was a referendum, we respect it apparently, and we are leaving, is the Conservative Party. No other party in Parliament respects the referendum as much as the Conservative Party. The SNP, we don't want to leave. And if we're going to leave, we want to be in the single market. That's a shit accent. We want to be in the single market. Great. Fine. You do whatever the hell you want as soon as you get independence, which isn't yet. So keep quiet. That's the SNP. Who else? Liberal Democrats, well, they're so against us leaving that they're not even afraid to say we shouldn't be leaving in the first place. They're going to do all they can to make sure we never leave. Now, in a lot of ways, actually, after the Conservative Party, the party you have to respect the most for actually being consistent about what they want are the Liberal Democrats. Probably, well, you could say the SNP, but no, because they have God knows how many agendas they're stirring by the way they vote in Parliament, just to try and ensure that they end up independent. They don't give a shit about whether Britain leaves the EU. They've played a clever game by sitting there the whole time saying, well, if we're going to leave, we respect the vote, but because Scotland voted in, therefore we have to be in the single market. And if we're not in the single market, well, we want independence again. It's a clever game, because actually, in order the most likely way that they will get independence is when or if Britain leaves the European Union, because that might just push enough people over the edge slightly in Scotland to think, well, we all want to be tied up with the EU. We don't want to be tied up with Britain, really, if they're not even in the EU. Therefore, the EU's better. We want out of the UK. You can understand that if they're really that nationalist in the first place. It's just the way they're doing it, cynical. But you kind of know what their end game is, the SNP. So who else? Labour? Or what about the Welsh? What's the Plaid Cymru? Well, they're irrelevant. Firstly, they're tiny. I mean, I don't know if they have more MPs than the DUP or not. I don't know. I don't give a shit either. Unfortunately, Wales has become utterly irrelevant. It had its moment of relevance in the referendum when Wales voted to leave. But when Wales voted to leave and another part didn't, like Scotland, Wales lost their ability to have any say whatsoever. The say that counts is the say to leave in the first place. Now they could sit, the Plaid Cymru and the Welsh, and partly the Welsh Labour, because they all kind of have the same idea, is they can sit there and they can say, well, yeah, okay, we voted to leave, but what's best for all our Welsh constituents who voted to leave is jobs. We want jobs, therefore we have to stay in the single market. So we respect the will of the referendum. We want to implement the referendum, but we don't want to leave the single market. That's basically where they are, which is bollocks. It's a stupid idea. That's like a loyal Tesco shopper saying, I'm not going to shop at Tesco anymore, and then ordering all the food online at Tesco. That's basically what that is. It's not actually leaving, it's staying in, but just changing the name. So the Welsh, all of Wales, Welsh Labour, Welsh Plaid, whatever the hell they are, they're irrelevant. Wales has become utterly irrelevant. Scotland's relevant. Northern Ireland's hugely relevant. And England, well, everyone knows what England wanted. England's the most powerful part of the UK. Therefore, its relevance was guaranteed which way you look at it. But to get back to my point, and I must have digressed quite a lot to have taken this long to get here. The Labour Party overall is, even though they have a huge amount of influence in Parliament, actually what they're doing is irrelevant. They don't know. They have no idea what they want. The front bench, the Labour Party leadership want one thing, and they don't actually know what that is, but all they know is that it's actually different from what backbench Labour people want, such as, what's her name, Caroline Flint, who's prepared to accept, pretty much she's acting like a conservative, or a left-wing conservative, because she's just prepared to accept whatever Theresa May comes back with, and she probably will, just to say, well, we respected the referendum and we even voted for a way to leave the EU. So you have three factions within Labour, essentially. You have Corbyn's lot, what are they? They're essentially leavers. This is in Parliament. The party itself is even more different. And all those millennials in the party haven't got a clue what they want either. They have got a clue, but they think what they want is what Jeremy Corbyn wants, which is completely wrong. So actually you could argue that they haven't got a clue. But in terms of Parliament, you have three factions in the Labour Party. You have Jeremy Corbyn, who actually probably right now, as much as he's wanted to leave the European Union in days of old, frankly, I doubt he gives two shits about what happens with the European Union, about Brexit. He doesn't care. We come back and there's no deal, a shit deal, a great deal. World Trade Organization. He's going to shit on it, whatever happens. He's going to make life as difficult as he can for Theresa May, because he thinks that's his path into government. And because of that reality, as big a threat that Corbyn poses to becoming the Prime Minister, his actual actions are irrelevant. It bears no relevance on Brexit, really, whatsoever. Brexit will not be determined by Labour. It can't be, because they'll be split. Conservatives will be split as well. But the way Labour votes, actually, I don't think it's going to have that much of a difference. You have a small number of people like Caroline Flint, and they're basically Blairites, but not quite Blairites. They're former Blairites, but now Leaver Blairites, who are so worried in their northern constituencies about the backlash of them voting in any way that is Remain, that they're thinking, well, shit, I want to stay an MP because it's a great job and I get lots of money. That might not be the reason, I don't give a shit. But they want to keep their seats. They want to keep their seats That's it, really. They don't believe it. Caroline Flynn doesn't actually think we should leave. She's saying it because the constituents all voted to leave. The constituents all voted to leave, and they all voted to leave because of immigration. Immigration which is actually fairly low in that constituency because it's so far up north. But as someone who's concerned about their seat, she has to. Otherwise, she's too principled for her own good. I have some sympathy to some extent. I think there is a line, and she's probably on that line, where you might do things for political reasons which the public might say are a bit dubious, but actually you may still well believe that you're there to do the best for your constituents. And I think people like her probably do believe that they can do more good for their constituents by just staying an MP. They're known by their constituents, they've been voted in the past, they have some level of trust even if they start voting in different ways occasionally. Occasionally you can get away with it, whether she can or not. But I still think these people's intention is still to try and do what they think is right. I just don't agree with what they think is right. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It's an opinion. It's all opinion. But the problem with all this... So going back to... So that's the Labour Party. The Labour Party is relevant but irrelevant. They won't actually determine, I don't think, what happens. The DUP are probably more important than the Conservative Party. It's no understatement to say that Arlene Foster of the DUP is possibly the most powerful woman in the UK. It's difficult really to see how you could say Theresa May is a particularly powerful woman. She's not. She is controlled completely by events, as one Prime Minister said. And the events happen around her all the time, and all she is doing is reacting to them and pleasing people. Different groups at different times. Left-wingers in the Conservative Party, Labour people who might be sympathetic to the deal, so-called, and I hate this bloody description, hard-right Brexiteers like Jacob Rees-Mogg, David Davis, Boris Johnson, the DUP at other times. 4 or 5 different factions that actually are able to influence her at different points in time. And all she does is just say, okay, I'll go with that. Until that side gets pissed off, she says, okay, okay, how about this? Fudge again. Here's have some more fudge. Labour. Well, we're going to vote against this. Okay, here's a bit of fudge for you. She's handing out fudge left, right, bloody centre. The whole country, no one should be starving in this bloody country. There's so much fudge going around. And so who's to blame for all this? It's ironic to a depressing scale. Because the party that the party in Parliament that had been so instrumental in us getting to the stage where Britain voted to leave the European Union. The party which delivered the referendum and whatever happened was committed to making that vote, making the result actually happen, has done more than any other party in the UK to make it more likely that it either doesn't happen or that it all goes tits up and it goes so badly wrong that people think, well, we shouldn't have done this, it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. The voters in this country did not make the mistake. The Conservative Party made the mistake. They made the mistake when they put Theresa May in charge. And it all comes back to this. You put someone in charge of delivering Brexit who doesn't actually believe in it in the first place. How can anyone think that's going to end well? It isn't. It's a complete disaster. They should have put someone in. I don't care. I can't think of names at the moment. Boris Johnson would be, frankly, he would have been better, I think. He would have been better, but it would have been like some bloody circus act. It would have been as ridiculous as Donald Trump tweeting every night. But at least we might have got a good deal. At least we might have ended up in a better situation than we have now. Andrea Leadsom. I think she probably would have been too weak. I don't think she would have been a great deal stronger. Maybe she would have been, who knows? At least she was a Leave voter. At least she actually believed in the damn thing. And I hope that all those Leave voting Conservatives that supported Theresa May when she stood for the Conservative election, I hope they look back and regret every second that they were campaigning for Theresa May. Because they could have done so much better. I don't give a shit who it was, frankly. It should have just been a Leave campaigner. That's the bottom line. Because you can't, something this big, you can't have someone try and deliver something that they don't believe in when it is that important. You can't do it. And this is living proof. Absolute disaster. So that's I could go on all night about this. I've ranted for apparently 22 minutes already, which is depressing because this is already a long video. So I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on some of the other things which I wanted to cover. I mean, where do you begin? Saudi Arabia? Let's start with Saudi Arabia. Let's not start because I started with Brexit. Let's start with Saudi Arabia for the next thing. I don't have a great deal to say about this. I've never been easy about the idea that we sell so many weapons to such a morally corrupt country. Morally corrupt, not only just corrupt, but morally corrupt because they don't give a shit who they bomb. They don't care. Saudi Arabia knows it can buy weapons, it can buy bombs, missiles, planes, the lot. It can buy all that, and it can pretty much, in the Middle East, it can bomb whoever the hell it likes with almost complete immunity. There's no, just by shouting about it, doesn't actually fix anything. People can condemn it all they want. We can say, well, we don't approve the use of our weapons that we sold to Saudi Arabia being used to kill Yemeni civilians. You can say that for 100 years. Unless there's any action to back it up, it's going to carry on. They will keep doing that until every Yemeni is dead or fleeing. Won't make a blind bit of difference. That's what Saudi Arabia does because they have the oil, they have the influence in the Middle East, they have the money, and unfortunately they have the intelligence, and they use it. They're clever with the way they use it because they're not that interested in actually preventing terrorism. But the only thing that is in their interests is to stop it looking like they're not sending the West intelligence about the terrorists which they harbour and support and fund. The idea that either Saudi Arabia or Iran are somehow better than the other, and that we need Saudi Arabia to counteract Iran, or we need Iran to counteract Saudi Arabia, is ridiculous. It's like saying, well, North Korea is such a threat, we need to install someone who acts in the same way as North Korea in South Korea. So democracy in South Korea, let's install a bloody dictator, give him some dodgy nuclear missiles, and tell him to start rounding up his population and put them into camps. It makes no sense. But we have put ourselves, the West, the democratic, liberal West, we have put ourselves in this ridiculous situation with Saudi Arabia, where we rely on them for intelligence, and it's pretty much all we rely on them for. And unfortunately selling them a shit ton of weapons. Because this is, I heard something in the news today about the British defence sector. British government, and they said, I think it was on Channel 4, something like that, or BBC. The British government supports the British defence industry supplying and selling weapons to countries like Saudi Arabia because it's in Britain's interests to have a big defence industry which sells lots of money, makes, despite probably what the inevitable large-scale tax, I don't know, I'm not going to make that accusation. The industry will pay, it will, it has lots of tax in the UK. The UK government collects all that tax. The defence industry employs highly trained and high-wage people. I think 40,000 apparently. This country employs 40,000 people in the, I don't know if it's defence and aerospace or what sectors. I'm assuming it's defence, but it might include aerospace, whatever. So the fact that we have these companies that sell abroad, sell some of what it makes to other countries, means we collect a load of tax, we keep a shitload of people employed, we have highly skilled people, and to some, apparently, and this is the crap argument, that we have some great influence in the world. Because, and this is what they said on whatever programme it was, they said, because the government can't actually afford to buy everything that the UK publicly, well, it's not publicly owned, the UK defence industry sells. Our government can't afford or doesn't buy enough of our own defence industry's equipment for the defence industry to survive purely selling to the UK. There's a couple of ways. Well, there's one really blindingly obvious way you could address that, which is essentially increase our defence spending. It's already too low. Look at Russia, look at China, look at Saudi Arabia. How much do they spend? They spend probably a bloody fortune as a percentage on their defence. Yet we, even now, we say, oh, 2, yeah, we're spending 2, look at us. Look at world, we're spending 2%, we're one of the biggest defence spenders in the world. So what? It's irrelevant. 2% is shit. Get rid of it. 2% is a ridiculous number. In 2018, when you have threats from Russia, China, you have cyber terrorism and cyber security, a huge defence issue. And we're spending 2%. Russia, what does Russia spend? I think it spends 10 to 15%. I think it's 15% would be ridiculous. I'm not even sure it's 10%, but it spends absolute bucket loads as a percentage, relatively, on defence. America, I don't know how much America spends. I think it might be 5, I'm not sure. You know, this idea that every country spends 2% is crap. NATO would go bust if America wasn't spending 5, 6, 7, whatever percentage it is a hell of a lot more than 2%, I can tell you that. If we want to be an influence in the world, it'd be better not to sell all this crap to Saudi Arabia and other dodgy, corrupt, tin pot bloody regimes around the world. Simple. increase our own bloody defence spending, then buy all the crap which we make and sell to these dodgy regimes. They might not still be self-sufficient, but it might mean we can afford not to have to tolerate them sending all this shit to Saudi Arabia. Simple. Is it simple? I don't know. No, of course it's not simple. But spending even 1% more on defence in the UK. Our economy is bigger than Saudi Arabia. They might be rich. I don't know. I'm assuming they have a surplus, because what's the point? They sure as hell don't need to borrow anything, because they've got all that. They have apparently 2 billion barrels, 2.5 billion barrels of oil still left in the sand, under the sand. They're going to be going for years like that. So they're probably not in debt, but we're certainly a far bigger economy than they are. And who's got more influence on the world? They're an oil producer, great. We should increase our defence spending to at least 3%. Double it. Double it over the next 10 years. And aim to add it to 4% in the next 20 years. Be good for employment. Be probably good for the morale of the country. It'd probably mean you end up spending less, frankly, on benefits and all this stuff, because you take a whole ton of extra people into the armed forces. Hell, even you'd consider having some degree of conscription for a while. I'm sure that instill a lot of discipline in some of these young people. So that's so this journalist, that's essentially where I was going. The journalist. I mean, what do you expect? We're in uproar, yeah, I agree. And the uproar should be the same, it should be no different. The reaction should not be any different for Saudi Arabia than it was to Russia when they killed those people in Salisbury. Couldn't remember the name of the place. It's exactly the same thing. Well, no, not quite. One's technically on their own soil, Saudi Arabia, because they did it in the embassy or whatever, the whatever it is. I'm not sure it's an embassy. They did it on their own soil in a foreign country. Russia does it, tries to do it discreetly. They do it in someone else's country. And both are equally disgusting. And yet, within days of it happening, we've already had a complete change of reaction from Donald Trump. Started off saying there will be big consequences if this is found to be Saudi Arabia killing off journalists that it doesn't like. And 2 days later, today or yesterday, I think yesterday, he said, I spoke to King, whatever his name is, Abdullah. I don't know if his name's Abdullah. I spoke to a prince or king, whatever. And we had a conversation, and it sounds like it's some rogue operators. I mean, if you didn't hear exactly how it all happened, rogue operators is the most unlikely scenario in this whole thing. It's more likely that there was a gas leak in the building and he poisoned and everyone else wasn't allergic to the bloody fumes or something. That's more likely than the idea of some fucking rogue operators flying in 3 planes worth of people or something. I don't know if it's 3 planes worth or 3 vehicles. 15 people marched into that embassy, including, this is a ridiculous thing, including an autopsy person, some guy who carries out autopsies, there's your hint, and he had a load of cutting and sawing material, or whatever, for cutting limbs off. And yet they're rogue operators, they sanctioned their own flight out of there, conveniently with an autopsy specialist or something, walk in there, into their own embassy, interrogate him, and he ends up dead. Yeah, there's some really switched on rogues they are. give me a break. And this is Donald Trump. This is what he's doing. He's peddling this idea that, and they're already backtracking. Really, that's what it is. America, what's his name? Secretary of State. I can't remember his name. Is Trump's Secretary of State? Still can't remember his name. Flew to Saudi Arabia today and met with King or Prince, God knows what his bloody name is. And then we have them backtracking. And essentially what they've done is they've met and said, you're still our ally, this is America, you're still our ally, what you did's very bad, you've been a naughty boy, smack. Now we're going to have to create a story which no one's going to believe, but we're going to have to create it anyway, just to get ourselves out of this shit, so we can carry on selling you weapons to bomb people in Yemen. That's what's happened. They know full well no one believes what they're doing. They know full well no one believes Saudi Arabia's story, that they either didn't know about it or it's a bunch of rogues. They know full well what Trump's intentions and motives are. And they just carried on. And the world will let them, because the US is the most powerful country in the world. Saudi Arabia is one of the most influential countries in the world because of its oil. And it's a partnership which has just been continued through blatant disregard of everything that America supposedly expects Saudi Arabia to respect, which everyone knows it doesn't. It's a mess. The whole bloody thing's ridiculous. We shouldn't support regimes like this. Anyway, what else? What's next? That's it. I've been ranting for 36 minutes. At least this is a proper rant. I mean, for the tiny numbers of people that even watch this thing, and I have no idea if anyone actually watches it, I'd like to think maybe someone's getting some grasp of what I believe and my principles and all this stuff. I have principles, and if you don't like them, I have other principles. Someone said that once. So lastly, and this really won't spend very long on, even though I've almost spent the same amount of time talking about Saudi Arabia. John Bercow. Well, the guy's an idiot. I mean, I'm not sure there is anyone in the House of Commons, possibly in the House of Commons history, parliamentary history, history of British politics, that is as smug of an arsehole as John Bercow. Not only is it believable that he treats people behind the scenes with disrespect and patronises them, but he does it in the Commons on a daily basis. He thinks he's some holier than thou thing. He thinks he's way up here. He's Speaker, therefore everyone else is up here. I'll do it so people can see me. Well, he's up here, everyone else, yeah, he's the Prime Minister probably. You're just below me. I don't give a shit about you people. I look down at you all. I'm the Speaker. Fall in line, bitches. That's all it is. So he's a smug arsehole. He's done some good things for reforming how Parliament works. As a Speaker, he's not been bad. But his character and his personality suck. And the sooner he goes, the better. I hope they have a decent speaker next time. He's been a good speaker, but he has been embroiled in quite a lot of controversy. Most of it does surround the way he treats people, and he gets some people. I mean, they were interviewing today. I'm not interviewing, but some journalists for BBC or Sky or Channel 4, something like that, have said people who don't want to be named, MPs, have said, yeah, he's done lots of positive things for modernising Parliament, done loads of it, done a lot of good, but he is a smug arsehole. That's what they've said, and you could see it. You can see it on TV every Wednesday. Anyway, so, right, I don't have anything left to rant about. I really don't. I'm ranted out. So, yeah, thanks for watching. I will still try and make some more videos. I'm going to be quite busy in the next week or two, I expect, possibly longer than a week or two. I'm sure at some point I'll still be able to make more videos, political stuff. And when I get my laptop back, I'll try. I might change how it works slightly, but I'm going to try and do some more things where I'm just reacting to something that happens. I'll try and keep it relevant. I don't know. We'll see. Brexit's so fascinating that you can watch a new. I could watch a new video every day, and I'll react to it. Well, the problem is I might end up anyway. Whatever. I'm rambling. So that is it. Thank you for watching. If you're new to watching this, well, leave a comment, like it, anything to bump it up, because I've probably got 0 views, 0 comments, 0 likes, 0 everything, mostly because I've stopped making videos, apart from this one, obviously. My laptop died. It's all my fault, it's all the laptop's fault, whatever, who cares. Bye bye, see you next time.